Welcome, everybody, to episode 10. Can you believe it? 10 episodes of Foster Care Uncovered. We're delighted to be here with you today. Hello, Louise. How are you?
Hi, Sarah. I'm fine. Hello, listeners. How are you? I'm good, thank you. The flooding has stopped and the sun is out, so now we
Ah,
can see the damage.
good. Nothing better than that. We can. So this week, we're going to do quite a serious topic this week. I'm not sure how much laughing there will be, but I think, as we are foster carers, I think even in the darkness, we will find places to laugh. So this week it's on allegations, and um, it's, I would say, the first of many on this subject. And here's why. It's not because actually allegations, it's not just about allegations themselves, but it's the impact the allegation system has on the entire sector, on our entire workforce. Because it's not just about, sorry, it's not just about having an allegation, it's about the fear of them. It's about the horror stories you hear from friends around the internet, social media. They abound. And now, why are we qualified to speak about this? 15 years ago, Louise and I first met and we started campaigning for foster carers. And part of that campaigning and our organisations, various across the times, has been supporting foster carers in allegations. We now have the union, the NUPFC, and we believe that's kind of their job now. But lots of people don't necessarily want to join a union and will still come to us. I supported foster carers personally every day for years in allegations. And I'll be really honest with you here, Louise, because you were part of that. My friends had to do an intervention when I ended up in hospital with acute urticaria and angioedema, and my tongue was swelling up, and the doctor had said, whatever she's doing, she has to stop it because it was stress. And it was the stress, the moral injury, the gut-wrenching heartache of supporting carers and children going through allegations and the horror stories, the horror that was going on, which I am qualified to talk about because I experienced it firsthand. It's not hearsay, it's what I supported in. We won't go into the stories today. We might do a stories episode, but we also have a very good guest coming on in a week or so who's going to talk us through his allegation, in inverted commas, and the impact it had on his life. And a lot of people will relate to that. Why is it so important that we talk about allegations? Because people will go, oh, you don't want to put people off fostering. Well, actually, we're all about education and we're all about change. So unless people come into the sector with their eyes wide open, with the right training, with the right education, understanding everything about the sector, there's no point because the numbers will continue to decline. We're going to talk today just about the numbers, what they don't really want to talk about, why allegations aren't just a carer problem, they're a system problem, where the allegation system goes wrong, what allegations really do to foster carers, and how we're going to change things if fostering's to survive. So I'll start with what are allegations. So allegations are one of those truths that no one likes to speak out loud, but everybody knows about. It's that kind of dark underbelly, isn't it, of the of our sector. They create a climate of fear and enable excessive control. They're damaging the very system, I would say, that's supposed to protect recruitment, retention, advocacy for children in people's care. It all suffers. So let's put some figures to it. In the largest independent foster carer survey of 2024, carried out by Foster Wiki, carers said this: 82% feel fear of allegations affects how they do their job every day. Just let that sink in. 41% said it stops them fully advocating for the child in their care. And 85% don't believe allegations are handled fairly or justly. Startling figures. And the terrible thing is that a huge proportion of allegations have very little to do with harm to a child. Many arise from whistleblowing, complaints, advocating too hard for children, raising concerns, even falling out with social workers. That's a common one, believe it or not. Trying to transfer, And research shows that 78% of allegations are unsubstantiated or unfounded, yet the emotional and physiological fallout and impact is devastating. So we're going to look at the outcomes and what they mean later on. What do you think, Louise?
I'm really glad we're doing this one on allegations, and I know that we're going to be doing many, many more talking about this because it is one of the biggest problems. And despite us recognizing that the Form F it's really bad for actually recruiting foster carers, allegations is the quickest way to lose a carer, and also it's the quickest way to set information around potential fostering communities. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Who wants this? So, what is it? Yeah, thanks for that. And I just feel sad already just thinking about this. I don't think there will be much laughter today, Sarah, because this is too serious and it's too heartbreaking. Carers can be left feeling powerless, shamed, and scarred, while children can be removed and rarely returned, even when the carer is entirely innocent.
Big one, that.
And that's happened to us. You didn't even know what's going on, and your child is gone, and you're standing there literally holding their teddy bear, saying, "Can you get this to
No
them?
goodbye, no contact ever again.
Need this teddy bear,
Yeah.
age 6." It often feels farcical, and it does. It feels like bad amateur dramatics, and you can see straight through it, and that makes it even worse because they don't seem to understand that we and don't care. Decisions rest with a single agency decision maker. How? Independent panels are ignored. Why?
Yeah.
Evidence can be misrepresented or even fabricated, lost. I mean, you end up exhausting yourself, photographing everything like you're working for the KGB. Independent panels are ignored. Oh, sorry, I've done that. Carers can't access their own records. Now, what the devil is this?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're in a system like Charms, the minute they make before they tell you there's been an allegation made, because this happens, carers get hold of me and say, "Oh, I've suddenly been locked out of Charms. Any idea why?" Or their online recording system, and there's an allegation made against you. Not to my knowledge. A day later, they contacted me, devastated, in tears, saying they made an allegation against me, but I can't get hold of any of my evidence.
Right. Well, here's a big hot tip. Right now, right straight away, you must all pay attention. When you are doing your logs, you then cut and paste and create your own file and keep your own record of the logs because they will close you out of all the information. And you might be misrepresented. They may lie, they may rewrite your information. So, top tip number one, cut and paste your logs as you go into your own file and keep it
And
safe.
can I say this? Because local authorities and agencies will threaten anybody who repeats that. Can I say that it is totally legal and okay to do that as long as, and actually, we've had confirmation, actually, the fostering network confirmed that, but they weren't prepared to publicly come out with it because, of course, they back the local authorities and the agencies, not the foster carers. They're not on our side. So, but you can do this as long as you comply with GDPR. You're self-employed. You're absolutely entitled to keep your own records, and they cannot tell you otherwise. My suggestion would be not to say anything. Just keep your own records. Keep them really safe. Comply with GDPR. Look up how to comply with GDPR, and keep them in that way. Because I'm not having people shouting at the podcast and people then intimidating, victimizing carers because of what we said, because it's legally okay.
And if it's your
And
computer,
if you don't identify the children, particularly your user, right?
if it's your computer, you paid for it, it's in your home, you can store what you like on it and you can send what you like from it. And that is a fact. And I think it's time that foster carers started protecting themselves more, because
Mm.
look at the evidence as we go through, because if you don't, it can all go horribly wrong. So foster services are far from independent. Yeah, we know that. It's often
Support
just a cup of
services, yeah.
tea and sympathy. That's the
Mm.
support. What does
Mm.
support look like for a lot of us? I mean, I remember very nervous, agitated social workers sweating profusely in our garden after they'd removed a child because he didn't agree with it either, but he could not say otherwise. So let's be honest here. There's a lot of in emotional injury done to us, the children, and some of the foster social workers who may not agree with it and who are also being ignored. So let's remember,
Yes,
social
absolutely.
workers
Yes. Let's
are
big
in
up the
this
good ones
suffering
because, yeah.
too. Um, so what, often it's like, well, I can't do anything. It's a cup of tea and sympathy, not real advocacy or legal advice. And my goodness, doesn't it feel like a kangaroo court if this ever
Mm.
happens to you? Suddenly you're like your entire life feels like it's flashing before you.
Mm. Mm.
The outcome is that carers live in constant fear, and I can't tell you how this traumatizes you. My husband got a phone call just the other day, and it was from a court withheld number, which is always from the police or the children's social care, and he panicked. And we had, this is years ago we got an allegation, but he still panicked, and it still traumatizes us. And when we cannot look after the children if we are traumatized.
No.
We live in constant fear under the intense scrutiny and powerless to challenge the falsehoods because they can lie. I have sat and watched people lie in front of my face. It's
Mm.
disgraceful. Even when exonerated, they're
Yeah. No such
still
thing.
they're still scarred by the process and tarred with the no smoke without fire
Mm.
brush. And for those deregistered, the system often ensures they cannot work anywhere else,
Yeah.
wasting
Ever
vital
again.
expertise and leaving children without the stable placements they deserve. So it's carnage.
It is carnage.
Allegations are
Yeah.
carnage. And I know people who have lost their complete social status within the community because the whispers start going, and I don't know where they come from.
DBS gets affected and they can't work with children again.
And a lot of foster carers already work with children in their day
Mm.
jobs. Their paid work, and then they lose that
Yeah.
work. It is carnage.
And they came in, these are good people who, there are very few real proper, obviously, let's do a disclaimer here as well. We are absolutely all over child protection. Child
Mhm.
protection is so important to us. And I mean, look at your background. Nothing is more
Yeah,
important than child protection. But so few are genuinely about child protection.
they are. It's as we like to say, relational. So in this episode, we're doing what the sector hasn't, frankly, speaking the unspoken truth, naming bad practice, and exploring how the system can change for carers, children, and the fostering world as a whole. This is the start of the conversation, just the start,
Yeah,
people.
just
Start, not the end. And with more episodes to come, we're going to dig deep, call out the problems, and talk solutions. And you are welcome to contact us, which we'll talk to you about at the end. So, what is an allegation? Simply put, it's a claim that someone, maybe a carer, their family, or someone else, in fact, it might be anyone, has harmed a child, broken the law, or acted in a way that suggests they shouldn't be working with kids. Well, I can name a few professionals there. It can happen to anyone at any time. And the number one thing carers tell us after going through it is, I had no idea what was going on.
yeah, it's the biggest one of all, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm. I think, also have to remember that many of our children in care have been really, really traumatized. They're scared, angry, grieving. Birth parents can be frustrated, confused by the whole situation. So there's always going to be a raft of false allegations coming from that side as well. And we can find ourselves facing allegations just for doing our job. Again, of course, some people don't do it right. We're not talking about those allegations. We're talking about this huge percentage of other allegations that shouldn't be happening and are ruining carers' lives. Yeah, I think, don't think at any moment we don't think that this is important allegations, because poor people can't start saying, oh, children are harmed, this, we have to face the allegation system as it really truly is. And it is the Wild West. It is a kangaroo court. And we'll see that as we go through when we read about how the system works. Should we talk about the stats?
I think we should.
The numbers they don't really want to talk about. So here's a little reality check. In 21-22, there were over 3,000 allegations against foster carers in England. That's just in England. I haven't got the rest of the stats, but it'll be per rata in Scotland and Wales and Ireland as well. Over half of these allegations were for physical abuse, nearly a quarter for emotional abuse, and a smaller but serious chunk for sexual abuse. And yet, despite all of this, about half of these investigations ended in no further action. Now, many dragged on for over 50 days. It's ridiculous. But here's the thing, right? What you've got to remember here is that in the statistics, they are they send the statistics in themselves. So nowhere is an allegation going to go, it was a retaliation against whistleblowing. It was because a carer had spoken out. They're all going to look like they were harmed to a child. You see what I'm saying? The truth of them will not be told. The same as the statistics for how long it takes. There's some mad statistic about how the majority of them are sorted out in 4 weeks. Well, that again is an absolute fabrication. I've never heard of an allegation finished in 4 weeks. And it's certainly, if you speak to the unions, you'll also find that they just, their jaws will be on the floor. But of course, that is that's part of the sort of policy and procedure that they should be following. So of course they're going to say it. These are not truthful statistics being put forward to the government. So what we're seeing is a complete underplaying of the reality of what's genuinely happening out there. So also I'd like to put something else into perspective. I looked up social workers who, let's face it, they face verbal abuse, threats, sometimes physical attacks from the public. They're generally hated by birth parents, often children. Can you imagine the number of allegations that fly? Yet less than 1% of registered social workers were referred to their regulator for an allegation.
Whoa, that's telling, isn't it?
Yeah. Whereas I think ours is like 4 or 5%.
Wow.
And so even with thousands of concerns and allegations raised every single year, it seems that the system's far more keen to protect its social workers than its foster carers. So what we're looking at here, carers are people who live with their children 24/7, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're disproportionately targeted by allegations compared to professionals who also face daily hostility in the field. It's stressful and it's unfair and it has to change. So in our series of allegations, I think we're going to call out that system, speak the truth nobody else wants to hear. And you'll often see in those stats, half of the allegations against foster carers, the majority of against them just aren't substantiated. And this system is destroying retention and recruitment. The other thing is they'll say, oh, only, only blah, blah, tiny percent left after their allegation. They all stayed. It's not that. It's how they feel about the relationships afterwards. It's how they feel that this is going towards the end of them caring now. They are going to leave after this child, and all of that. I mean, what do you think?
Well, gosh, it's hard, isn't it? This is so hard because I'm sitting there listening to you, and loads of people's experiences are flashing through my mind. And when you were ill, Sarah, at that time ago because of the amount of stress, and I remember trying to take some of the load, and it is absolutely heartbreaking. This is like, it feels like a version of ICE. What's happening in the US is what can happen to foster carers when they are receiving an allegation. They come into your home, they can take your laptops away, they can take your phones away, they threaten to take your birth children away. It can be absolutely harrowing, and you might not even know this is coming to your door. Sometimes you get a sense, which is why those logs are very important, and to write rapidly and to write daily and to also keep copies on your own computer. Um,
Don't complain without backup, because one of the usual things is carers come to me and say, I've had this allegation. It's really weird. It's come out of the blue. I'm the golden child. I'm on the back of the bus advertising fostering for them. I'm this and that. And the first thing I say is, "Oh, when did you make the complaint?"
yeah,
And
exactly.
they say to me, how did you know that? You don't know me. I said, no, I'm just guessing. I
It's
come back,
messy.
"Oh, have you had a new social worker?" Yeah.
Yeah. Have you got a new social worker that's done the whoopsie and then now they're going to throw you under the bus?
Mm,
Yeah, no child ever makes a direct allegation. Usually comes from the social worker or the teams who lodge the allegation against the foster carers. And I have seen, again, this goes back to the very poorer local authorities use a lot of volunteers to do the work, I
yeah,
think,
yeah.
of paid professional social workers. And
Mm.
I'm not sure how comfortable social workers
You
are with.
had a run in with that, didn't you?
I did have a running with that, a
Mm,
child who had left us, but had heard that we had another child, became very jealous,
mm,
and became quite hostile. We didn't know any of this was happening, and I received about 26 allegations, like locking her in a cupboard and not feeding her. And her social worker just said, I'm not having anything to do with this.
mm,
Not having
mm.
anything to do
Yeah.
with this. But it amazed me that the laddo was quite keen to go through it and hang me out to dry. And I remember there was also, they wanted to phone me at work. I was in the middle of doing a presentation, and they wanted my husband to pull me out the presentation to tell me, and I'd have to have driven 2.5 hours back home, not knowing what was going. So he said, no, he's not prepared to do that. But what happened was that the child had the ear of a very naive young volunteer,
Mm,
was doing this volunteering to help her probably move along to become a social worker or whatever, and had no backstory, very little experience, and 10-minute training, and totally listened to this child, and it was farcical because if anyone knew us, the allegations were
mm,
totally out there.
mm,
And well, I pursued it and I pursued it, and we could dispute and we challenged absolutely everything with evidence. We never got an apology. And that 4 week thing, oh yeah, factor in Christmas and then the flu. And
mm.
then, so you got the person who's investigating who comes around your house and you ask you questions.
Oh, the friendly chat.
The friendly chat. I remember saying one of the allegations was you locked this child out, and I said, but she had a key. Got a key. She's
Mm,
got a key.
mm,
So it's like it's just and I remember one of the things they train us in that 5 minute wonderful course, Skills to Foster, which prepares you for diddly squat. Magical thinking. The children from trauma have magical
mm.
thinking. So when they apply magical thinking when it might suit them,
Yeah.
it's very different because I remember challenging it. Isn't this magical thinking that you all talk about? And they
Mm,
said, well, we have to investigate this properly. I said, but what about the things they say about you?
yes.
What is it, the things they say about the social workers?
Mm.
Is that not
But
magical
also
thinking?
the number of things that you, others, everybody has reported that a child has said about a social worker, they all close ranks and just they don't even investigate.
They close ranks quicker than I've ever seen anything happened in children's social care in my life. That the rank closing is phenomenal,
Mm.
and they were lied to protect their colleagues. And I'm not saying that bitterly from personal experience. I'm saying that from bitterly from many people's personal
Yeah.
experience. And when I was working with you on the allegations,
Yeah.
I was just saying, Sarah, well, when you were ill, it was
Heartbreaking.
like that. Do you remember that film about the children going to Australia who were taken? I think it's originally by Bernardo, sent children
Mm.
to Australia who were seriously abused when they got
Mm.
there. And the
Mm.
woman investigating it, her hair fell out, her tongue swollen up. The stress that we carry
Yeah. Yeah.
as volunteers to help our
Mm.
fellow foster carers. But this is brutal. So, local authorities aren't going to say, oh, yeah, 70% of those were because the carer spoke up or advocated too hard. What is advocating too hard?
Yeah.
Now, let me make this very
They're
clear.
just not going to put those in the
They're
stats,
not.
are they? They're going to
Let,
all put it's all harm to a child. It isn't.
No,
That's
let
a
me make this
cover up.
clear. Let me make this incredibly clear that if you have a child with SEND needs, if you have a child that requires CAMS, if you have a child that is on medication, if you have a child that is going through serious trauma and you try and advocate, you are advocating for them to get them services, and
Mm.
you are entitled to get frustrated when the very
Mm.
organizations that promote the services will not deliver the services.
Mm.
That's when you'll probably receive an allegation.
Yeah, it silences you basically, doesn't it?
Actually,
It
because they have the
silences you.
power, and it's the biggest
Mm.
abuse of attrition, and it's killing. This is what is killing fostering.
Mm.
So local authorities and providers, if you are listening to this, this is what's killing it. This is what's doing it.
Mm.
And get this, oh yeah, the other thing is when you go for an allegation, do you get paid?
Well, we're going to do that bit in a minute,
No,
aren't
do
we?
you get
No,
paid?
no.
No. Okay, so they take it, you don't,
Well,
so
because also that's the reason they don't have to hurry, especially if they've taken children away. You're just sat there, you're not, collateral damage. Because you've got to remember as well, frontline social workers are not responsible for retention or recruitment.
no,
And they don't have a responsibility morally either towards it.
no,
So I'm not saying that perhaps they should be mindful of retention and overlook their statutory duties, but we're so far from that in
yeah.
allegations. We're so far from that.
And also, and I always found the litmus test with an allegation is like, okay, they've made this huge allegation. It's all blues and twos, it's all full on. You've got to do this, you've got to do this. Sometimes they do take people's laptops
Mm.
away, which, by the way, they cannot. They are not the police.
Mm. Mm.
This is like ICE again. I compare this to ICE
Mm.
because some of the,
Mm.
the, the
Mm.
powers they impose, and that's
Mm.
self-protectionism, and this is to remove the risk from
Mm.
themselves.
Mm.
It's that I said to them, okay, you're going to take the other foster child away. And they went, no, 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 they're fine.
Oh,
So
yeah.
how
Oh,
is
this is
this?
so
You know,
normalized. You're
this is
not
like, so
actually safe to
you're
look
that
after
bad.
children, but the one we can't actually put anywhere else, you can
Yeah,
keep.
you can keep. And I remember one social worker who didn't like me because, and being a care experience person, all those out there at care experience, a lot of social workers really don't like us. And I don't, that's another psychology kind of
Mm. Mm.
depth thing.
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
don't they?
Another
There's something
podcast. Yeah.
weird going on
Mm.
about that. I remember she stood there and she said, we're going to take your children away, my birth sons. Imagine that. And
Yeah.
I knew if I reacted, then I played into her hands.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
so
We've had
what
children. We've had birth
under this
children.
amount of pressure,
Yeah. We had a
you
foster
know,
carer who threatened to take the birth children away. And what did she do? She bundled them in the car and ran because she was so scared. Hadn't done a
yeah,
thing. The allegation wasn't true. She'd fallen out with a
yeah,
social worker who started to victimize her. And of course, what did they say then? She's mentally unstable. She's
yeah, they throw that
emotionally
one on.
incapable. We
Got
are
a
going
drink
to take the children away the minute we find her again. People were trying to find her, worried for her. And it was just, oh yeah, there's no wonder I ended up ill.
yeah.
But I think,
And also,
yeah,
and
go on, yeah,
get this. No child is ever interviewed independently.
yeah. I know that's a huge one, isn't it?
And when we let's listen to that carefully. So a child is interviewed by a social worker who probably knows the social worker is a mate or a colleague.
Sometimes they're not even interviewed at all. It can just be a casual remark apparently heard in the back of a car,
Yeah.
it or not heard as the case may be. Because the odd thing is with some of these things is they make an allegation by the child, something the child could never say. They're either not at the cognitive age to use that kind of language, or
No.
it wouldn't be in their vocabulary. It's
No.
it's sometimes so blatant, it's
It,
worrying.
it's incredible when and you look at this, and there's some children who are still walking around the house with a sock stuck to the bottom of their foot, and they don't know they don't know where the cereals are kept, can
Mm.
make such a sophisticated allegation.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
as you say,
why,
no one independently verifies that.
no, why isn't there an independent psychologist?
A psychologist, yeah, they do.
That's what should be happening. Because how can you keep saying our children are traumatized, and then they say something which clearly stems from
Mm.
trauma before us,
Mm.
and then not apply a psychological review?
No, it just nothing is independent
Isn't that
at all.
convenient?
Zero. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the whole no further action line you'll see in the stats. Usually that just means some extras training or a tweak to the approval. Essentially, it says you may not have done anything wrong, but let's make it look like like
Yeah.
we're doing something
Yeah, and
to,
let's make it look like you did something wrong.
yeah. And you are guilty no matter.
Mm.
It's a horrible smell to be have over you. You feel so unempowered, disempowered.
Mm.
You feel threatened, you feel and I remember it was a double edged for me as a traumatized child who was often beaten, abused.
Mm.
I knew that if I expressed to a social worker that that's how I felt,
Mm.
they would then go, you haven't got over your childhood trauma.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You
They
know,
weaponize
that is
everything. Weaponize everything. Listen to
that,
this one. I was very lucky in 16 years of fostering teens. I only had one allegation against me, but it was by a young lady who's long, long time ago now. So I don't think this can identify her, but her mum, and it's fairly normalized thing. Mum had just got out of prison and then out of rehab and got into her own flat. And of course, the young lady was desperate to go and see mum. Mum got in contact with her by phones, of course, and she demanded a lift to the station. And we said, well, we can't do that. First of all, it's not, but anyway, she was very cross, got hold of some Facebook friend, who was kept turned up and took her down to be with the mum. Mum then disappears within a day, leaves her in an empty flat, no bed, no nothing. But before that happened, the social workers tried to go there and get her back. And because 8 of her other siblings had been in care, they knew what to say. And she said, oh, Tim grabbed me, so I'm not coming back.
yeah.
So within a day, mum had left with a new boyfriend. She was left with a dog that had just been given to her mum and no bed, nothing. So she wanted to come home. And she'd already made this allegation and they'd already put it into full swing.
Mm.
So she wants to come home. She says, none of that happened. I made it up because I just wanted to stay with my mum. They would never harm me ever. She wrote it to a social worker. She wrote it to the social worker's manager. She wrote it to my social worker. She wrote it to us. They totally ignored it, went full steam ahead with this allegation. I
Mm.
found myself 6 months without pay. The
Mm.
child wasn't allowed to come back, ended up on the streets on a park bench being raped.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and then went into the some local hostel that's called Crystal House, which is nicknamed Crystal Meth House. Wasn't allowed to come back. I had no work for 6 months, and I'd given up a decent job at the NHS to
Yeah.
foster. We were just desperate and scared financially, as well as I felt never felt so powerless. So my foster talk, I had well, they buy you this support. They sent the foster talk guy round. Do you know what he said?
No.
And I swear on my whatevers, this is the truth. She said, do you know what, Sarah? Just cop to something and it'll all go away.
Blimey. Good grief. Oh, it's, I
And
don't
I
think,
was a fully grown, professional, competent woman who'd been managing teams at the NHS, working in child and adolescent mental health for a long time, had my own private practice, and I was sitting on the floor crying.
yeah, it's perverse, isn't it? And I go back
Mhm.
to ICE. When you give people who are not qualified or educated or don't have the wherefore to do this work, you give them power and they will abuse it. And that's
Mm,
absolutely what this feels like. It feels like they are bully boys and girls, and they see a weakness in a foster carer and they go for it. And when you go for a foster carer, you go for their partners, you go for their family, you go for their entire family.
mm,
That's why they can't recruit foster carers. And again, I cannot say this loud enough. Are you listening, local authorities? Are
mm.
you listening, providers? If you want to keep carers, you have got to
Oh,
train your social workers properly.
well, we'll come to the end what we've been trying to do about it. Do you know what? Let's go to section 4, which is we'll walk them through step by step the allegations process to make it how silly it is. And then we'll go to the bit about why it affects retention recruitment so badly. But I think anybody listening by now has a real clue onto why it would affect retention. And of course, why it would affect recruitment, especially with social media as it is.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
let's walk through the allegation system and see how it actually works.
Okay.
Step
So,
one.
yeah. So an allegation is made. Okay. That could be anything. It could be that they didn't even like your food. I'm not joking. An allegation is made, and straight away, there's no independence because the same organization that received the allegation is the one that will investigate it.
Yep. So step two, the investigation stays in completely in-house. There is no automatic external oversight, no separation between the people raising the concerns and the people investigating it.
Wow. Step three, very occasionally, they're bringing what's called an independent investigator.
Oh, can we have a giggle now?
Oh, I got a
I
gig.
must have a
I'm just
giggle.
laughing because the whole concept is just
Get
too much.
slightly hysterical by this point.
But even then, the agency chooses them, employs them, and pays them. So independence is more theoretical than real. And then what they will say, because I have challenged the independent
Mm.
investigator, who might be the godmother of the other social
Mhm.
worker's child, and they're in the same office, is
Yep.
I can think independently. No, you
No,
can't.
no, you
Sorry,
can't through that lens. You can't possibly.
no, I am able to think independently. That's
Can't
like the
possibly.
other great social work comment. I can assure you, you can assure us of nothing.
I know it's unbelievable. Well, you do step 4 and then I'll do 5. And
Okay. A report is written.
we use the term loosely.
The report is written by a professional, so you're going to use a term
Yeah.
loosely, that's working for or appointed by the same organization. Foster carers usually have little meaningful input, and I mean that
Yeah,
seriously.
yeah.
At best, they're allowed a short written response at the back that falls off on the way to the
That's
office.
it. Exactly.
Often added retrospectively, often barely read.
Yep.
There you
Step
go.
5. That report, well, can I just say that it gets tied up in a nice little pretty bow, all patted. There we go. There's our report. And that's also before the report. Of course, before the report, you have the obviously in these there's statutory meetings and things like that that go on behind the scenes that you're not invited to. You get the cozy friendly chat where they come round, and actually it's not a friendly chat at all, it's evidence gathering. They usually kind of pounce on a foster carer who's alone, think it's a friendly chat with a social worker, only to find a manager's come along as well, and they collate evidence and bully
Correct.
them. Um, that report is written after you have a household review to see if you can continue fostering. And they have to go through all that again. It sounds reassuring, doesn't it? it goes to panel. Panel, this gold standard fostering thing. You know my view on panel. It needs
Yeah.
kissing to touch. It's just chronic fostering panels. So, but the panel, here we go, is also recruited, trained, and paid for by the same organisation. The panel doesn't make the decision, though, even after being paid for, trained, and owned by the organisation
Yeah.
that's making the allegations, can only make a recommendation. And also, I will add there that you've got various outcomes. You can be unsubstantiated, unfounded. It's about
The
that. It's
third
about the
one,
only.
the third one I forget because it means that nothing happened. There was absolutely zero, and they don't like using that
Yeah,
one.
they don't use that one ever. So basically, you're guilty until you're proven guilty. You can
Yeah,
never not be guilty.
yeah. The
No
law.
such thing as innocent
Right.
in a false allegation, even. So, basically, as well about these outcomes, this is interesting as well. Recently, there's been quite a lot of arguing over it because there is another one that's called an outcome called malicious. And you've got to remember that most of our framework is directly under the same framework that is same as social workers having an allegation against them. They've got 5 or 6 outcomes that we should have too, and we did have originally, but they seem to stop using a lot of them. Now, the malicious one's really interesting because the fostering network, led and run by social workers, want to get malicious banned off the list because they say, oh, you should never say that a child said something malicious because it always comes from trauma. Fair enough. But what about all the malicious ones from social workers, from neighbours, from birth families, from managers? All the malicious and whistleblowing and complaints and wanting to transfer. Those are malicious allegations. But handily, the fostering network, who are social workers themselves, want to get malicious off the table. I'm
Oh, I
doing
wonder.
what's that thing where you do the little finger? Some James Bond villains.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah,
Funny that.
yeah.
Cool. It's murky.
It's very murky, and it's and I've just remembered that and everybody, are you ready for this? So you know your allegation status. The outcome is either substantiated, which rarely happens, unsubstantiated, which means they can't find anything on you, or unfounded, which is like they totally got it wrong, which
Yeah,
you're,
but they
yeah,
still send you on training and they
yeah,
still change your approval ratings because whatever you do, my God, you've got to be guilty. Because you know why? The truth of this is that they are basically, someone's cocked up, they are basically passing all the risk, all the blame onto the foster carer because we're such an easy, vulnerable target to shift everything onto.
we
So
are
even if a child
disposable.
does say something like, oh, da, 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 they go, oh, God, we don't want any of this. This is risk. Let's pass this on to the foster carer.
Which also goes back to not helping the children, so they get moved on.
Oh, the effect on the, I think we're going to do that in a minute. The effect on
Foster
children is,
carers, or
I think
you
that's
say
probably the one thing that's made me cry the most.
what it
Children
does
have
for
been ripped
children.
from houses,
Yep.
they've been ripped from school. One family had the children taken away. Again, it was a falling out with a social worker. Christmas Eve in their Christmas Eve pajamas.
There they.
Didn't take any presents. They didn't take their teddies, their blankies.
Where did the children go? To another
No
moment.
idea. I had to phone
Yeah.
the woman's husband up because I actually had her number. She was on in the fetal position on the floor, waiting for him to come home from work, just sobbing and crying. Oh, maybe she was over emotional.
They get you, don't they? Whatever you do, they will pin something on you. You're either overprotective, underprotective, over emotional,
Mm.
under emotional.
Can't work with teams, but you were never included in the teams anyway.
Yeah, so it's like you cannot win. And I think this is when the sector is at its worst. This
Yes, this is it when
allegation,
it's at its worst. Yeah, yeah,
allegation seems to bring the very
it
worst out of
does.
the profession.
Protectionism, blame culture,
It's
general
ugly,
shitty culture. Mm.
very ugly. And I've lost track of what number I'm.
Number 6.
I'm on number 6. Oh, okay. Oh, it feels like a pub quiz.
Mm.
Okay. The final decision goes to the agency
We
decision
should have a
maker.
foster carers pub quiz.
Well, I want to be on your team because
Oh,
you've got that
I'd be
brain.
on my team.
The final decision goes to the agency decision maker or the ADM, which always
Yeah.
used to make me laugh because I used to work at the ADM. It's called the Art Design and Media
Oh,
Department. So always,
no, it
always
ain't that. It ain't
thinking,
that.
decision maker. This is someone who works closely with the organization, often not even from a separate department. So they're obviously sharing coffee cups. They can override the panel if they want to. Very rarely do they dare.
Mm.
And while that's technically rare, technically or so relationally
Yeah.
uh, rare, panels tend to align with the organization anyway.
Yeah.
Of course
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
Most panel members have never fostered,
No.
and the system heavily favors the professional opinion over the carer's lived experience. Because if you have any lived experience, they don't like paying you or listening to you
No.
at all.
And
They're just
also, can I just pick up on that point? We don't have lived experience. We work. You
yeah,
don't say a social worker has lived experience. We have professional expertise grounded in frontline practice.
yeah.
Just got to get that in there. One of my bugbears.
Because I've got enough lived experience. Honestly, if anyone tells me anymore I've got lived experience, I'm going to punch
Oh, yeah. So step 7.
them.
So you consider yourself deregistered. You definitely you.
Oh yeah.
You're on your way out.
Yeah.
Step 7, if you disagree with the outcome, God forbid,
Possibly might do.
yeah, you possibly might do, you can appeal. We have an appeal service. So foster carers can appeal to the independent.
Is that in the same coffee cup rack? The independent, are they sharing the same
steering. Oh my God, I'm going to get it.
independent reviewing
It's the word
mechanism?
independent again. Appeal to the independent reviewing mechanism. Now, despite the name, it's run on behalf of the government by Core and Bath, which is a membership organisation for local authorities and agencies, not foster carers.
That is not the law.
You can't make it up, could you?
Oh, for goodness
It's
sake.
like some really bad episode of. I don't know. Couldn't make it up.
Well, it's like they years and years ago they all sat together and went, right, how can we make all this work for us?
Then we're
And then every time
looking.
there's
Oh, I
every time
know.
we make a mistake, let's just throw the foster care under the bus. How
Oh,
can we disempower them as much as possible so we can always dispose of them? Because this is what it feels like.
yeah. Step 8, go on. Because now you can.
Stop laughing. 'Cause it's actually not funny. You
Oh
can
no.
also make a formal complaint. No, really,
Oh, I
Sherlock?
did. Oh.
But again, the organization investigates itself. They mark their own homework, people. Unsurprisingly, complaints are usually fined in favor of the organization.
Oh no.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
And the process can take years unpaid. You just give up,
Yeah,
wouldn't you?
yeah.
Walk away. Years, sometimes 3 or more, because there's no urgency on their
And
side.
always the same thing. Even if they admit to anything wrong at all, there'll be 28 complaints. They'll admit to one which was, so minor, it doesn't matter. And they'll just ignore everything. I mean, they're honest to God. And then step 9, after all that, guess what? You can go to the ombudsman. But the ombudsman rarely challenges professional judgment and in 99% of the cases upholds the original decision. Even
So
if it
that,
doesn't, you might get £200 for your trouble.
wow,
You've
that's
been
gonna
put through the most traumatic, dystopian, harmful process. You've lost your livelihood. You've lost your registration to foster. You've lost your children. But hey, here's 200 quid.
yeah. That's okay. So they really that's what they think of us. And throughout this entire process, there is no independent scrutiny.
None.
No
None.
external accountability, no meaningful consequences for poor
Nope.
practice. The organization controls the allegation, the
Hmm.
investigation, the report, the panel, the decision, the appeal route, and the complaints process. Kangaroo court. So, when carers say the system feels stacked against them, I think you can work out why.
Mm, mm.
Not because they don't believe in safeguarding, but because safeguarding without independence isn't
No.
safeguarding at all.
But also, I often wonder how many real ones they miss. Do you ever think that?
Well, as we saw in the papers, was it yesterday or today, about that couple, foster carers, who were brutally harming their foster children over
Too
years.
busy we're too busy picking on the people who haven't done anything and
Yeah,
missing what's really going on.
because I'll tell you what goes on. I know this from personal experience as a child. The foster carers who are the wrong uns are the most compliant. And they're the most
Yeah.
compliant because they don't want to cause any trouble.
No.
And the social workers, like those foster carers, who
Mm,
don't take anyone.
mm,
And it's the foster carers with
mm.
the ethics and with the questioning and the professional curiosity that they don't like.
No.
So there
And
you
and
go.
you know, we point these things out because they really have to change. And
Yes,
because family-based care has has to be the priority.
yeah.
You know, it has to be the priority. So what's the impact on the children? Uh, I'll go first on this one. Well, it bounced around the system. Re-traumatized, loss of attachment, right, left, and center. Not just loss of them, ending, grief, trauma, re-traumatizing. And it really impacts their life outcome chances, you know,
Yeah.
really impacts it badly when they're used as weapons and weaponized and used against risk carers, blame culture. Yeah, it's shocking. Yeah.
Yeah, the knee-jerk reaction to any allegation a child makes, often the child has indeed lashed out through their trauma, lashed out in order to project their anger without realizing the consequences. And this is
Mm,
what I find so hypocritical. It actually tears my brain apart. Is that on one hand, you are told about trauma. We go
mm,
lovingly, curiously into learning about trauma. You can
mm,
stand in front of a social worker and discuss trauma until the cows come home. But the moment there's an allegation, all that knowledge is gone because
mm,
that knowledge no longer serves what they want to do. And I heard the other day that a
mm,
head of services fostering had now left their position and moved over because you know they like rearranging the deck chairs,
mm,
they all
mm.
move around and whatever, and was now the head of Lado. You know, it's like really, really,
Oh,
and
they
I
just move them about.
just move them about. You
Oh,
know, head of
that's
well-being, head of this, head of that. They move them
mm.
around, and this is what happens mostly in local authorities.
Right. Well, it's devastating the impact on children, and we'll go into that another day because it could be all day on that one. The impact allegations has on kids in every respect possible.
Just to
Um,
them.
so what do allegations really do to foster carers? We'll just take one each here, shall we, and go through the list because it's a
Yeah.
long one.
Okay. Psychological.
Psychological distress, emotional distress, trauma, anxiety, depression, suicidal ideology, and we have evidence of at least 3 suicides.
Yeah. Shame. Shame.
Powerlessness, helplessness,
Feeling bullied, feeling intimidated,
feeling of injustice, unfairness,
feeling deregistration, the fear of
yeah,
deregistration. We're
losing
talking
your
a
job.
job.
Yeah.
Oh, we haven't got a job though. Oh, it's just a calling.
Well,
Not
it's a
job.
calling and we'll
It's
work.
it's
No,
a fear of losing my calling.
let's ignore the fact that 65% of carers are full time.
Yeah,
And let's pretend they all have other jobs. They don't.
yeah,
So yeah, fear of losing children, their own children even, and their
yeah.
foster children.
Fear of losing the livelihood, financial hardship,
Suspension from the role with no income.
lengthy investigations, which are just trauma,
Yeah. Lack of voice, no input, more
uncertainty.
disempowerment.
Yeah,
Breakdown of trust, atmosphere of suspicion.
damaged relationships with professionals,
This is a big one. Hypervigilance at home, there and
yep,
thereafter.
inhibited advocacy for children,
Yeah, that's a big one. Strain on family life, impact on birth children, impact on extended family.
Reputational damage.
Normalization and minimalization by professionals.
Just part of the fostering
Oh,
narrative. You
it's
have
just
to
part of foster
create
care. We're all going
allegations.
to go through them. Why?
Yeah, why are we going to do that?
It's
That's
just
not your
part of your
job.
job. Why? Why isn't it part of your job?
Why is it
Apparently
not
it's
your
not.
job to create an environment where this doesn't happen?
Fear
But
of allegations is a constant backdrop.
chronic stress, mental health, and deterioration. And I just need to say that we just read out that list. So you want the best care for children
Mm.
with people feeling like that.
Living under that shadow. It's not just that when it happens that what it feels like. Now,
Because
people will berate us and say, oh, look what you're doing to retention and recruitment. Actually, I think we're going to help retention and recruitment because bringing this out into the light will mean that we can advocate better for kids. We can change the system. We can accept that it's not okay. We can accept that the behavior around allegations, even I've seen some really decent professionals I really respect, go really strange in allegations. So I don't know what that's about, whether it's about protectionism, but recruitment, of course, is intrinsically related to retention because foster carers are the best recruiters. And then, of course, you have social media. Well, don't think this isn't out there on social media. And where do people go now these days when they want to do a new thing like fostering? They don't go to the shiny adverts. They start looking around social media, the internet. They ask. Actually, that's an interesting one. I should ask Chat GTP what about allegations, and you'll probably find all that comes up. But they're going to do that first, and they will say, "Oh no, it's not worth my while." Why do you think? You think of the thousands and thousands and thousands of professionals, of consultants, of director of children's services, of social workers, managers. You think of all the market. You think of everyone involved in fostering and making really good salaries and pensions out of it. How many of those foster?
very few.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why.
Yeah.
They know that one allegation could lose everything.
Yep.
So this is what we have to change. Obviously, we're changing things. So what does need to be done and why it's complicated, basically? So one thing we have been taking this through the courts for a long time in terms of working status for foster carers. It won't be the magic bullet, but to have the correct, we are misclassified. We're not asking for something new. To have the correct classification could give us more protections. However, we won the right to unionize and they were recognized as workers under that. And also last year, we won the right from legally in court, won the right to take our providers to employment tribunal. So that's huge. So now you don't have to go to the independent mechanism. You don't renewing mechanism. The IRM, you don't have to do the complaints procedure. You don't have to do any of that nonsense, ombudsman, nothing. You go straight to employment tribunal. So that's been quite a huge biggie. So anyway, last year we had, we're now, as Foster Wiki and myself, got a seat as a key stakeholder at the Department for Education roundtables. Last year we discussed allegations. Obviously, I'm not going to discuss the details of those meetings because we're asked not to, and what other people say is said in confidence in the meetings. But what I can say is the Department for Education you meet with the policy team. So all they can do is tweak, which I think will probably be on the cards, but they can tweak the national minimum standards. They can tweak policy. Are they going to write brand new policies? I doubt it because it's set in the national foster care, the regulations, which means changing some laws. So they can tweak policy and, make the policy look different. But here's the kicker. When we did our survey, 50%, nearly 50% of carers said their providers already don't follow the national minimum standards or the statutory regulations. And we know without a doubt they don't follow them in allegations anyway. And because there's no one to make them accountable, there's no consequences, nothing. So for my mind, what's the point in tweaking policy if no one's following it anyway and they don't have to? Um, you know, we need an independent oversight mechanism, that is for sure, don't we? What do you think?
Well, I,
We won't get a central licensing body yet. That's years off. We need to
no,
we need to sort this out now.
it's happened. Well, it'll only happen where it happens, doesn't it? And people
Mm,
get away with it because they get away with it. It's like, and as somebody who was a child who was abused quite regularly, they got away with it until they couldn't. And this is abuse, and they're getting away with it until they can't. So
mm,
how do you do that? Let's go back to what we all know. Now, with a child, how you stop that is you remove the child. Now, you can't remove the foster carers from this activity. So what you can do is change the environment. By
mm,
changing the environment, you change the culture, but people have to be willing to do that.
mm.
Not think
Well, it
of
work culture is the culture works too well for them at the moment.
no, it doesn't, because they're losing carers. They will not
Oh
have
yeah, that's
a job
true. Yeah.
there if they do not have foster carers. All those that work around fostering will not be working around fostering. Where will they go?
But there's a disconnect between those doing allegations of frontline social workers and managers and teams and retention and recruitment. Retention and recruitment comes from on high and different teams, but the disconnect between them and the front line is a million miles.
Well, that's their problem, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
their problem. That's their
Mm,
internal communications, their
mm,
internal training,
mm.
their internal culture. That is
All
their
too busy going
problem.
to relational training
Don't get me started.
on how to be a human being.
Don't go there, please. Please stop it. I
Oh,
don't know.
having
Let
little bonding moments round the relational campfire.
say what we need to do when they have an allegation. Let's go back. You have a child or children that are raw, that are traumatized, that have will say things because they want to, because it means something else when they say it. Now we know all that. So can we apply a bit of that logic and that education to an allegation?
Mm,
Let's sit down and talk it through, would be my
mm,
first point.
mm,
One is
mm,
everybody in a really nice, comfortable setting go, now what really happened?
mm.
With a psychologist in the room
How
who
about a
says,
first conversation? You have a first conversation around the table with everybody,
yeah,
including the
and the
foster
child.
carer. You
Yeah,
have like what's called a sort of, you just get together and
yeah.
talk it through, see what's happened. There is no in this sector, there is no it's no kind of it's all knee-jerk risk, it's policy. There is no humanity
Mediation.
that goes on. There's no realness. There's no sort of relationships. There's no kind of thing where you sit down and say, let's talk about this. Because it needs to be talked about first before you even press the allegation button. But of course, if
Because
it's
they can't,
if it's one for retaliation allegation, they don't want to sit around the table and talk about that, do they?
because they don't
You
want to be
pissed
found
me
out.
off, so I made an allegation against you.
Yeah, yeah.
Not much to say about that one.
And I might be flying in another direction. This is just my experience in talking to other foster carers. The most, what happens is it's a younger, newly qualified social workers who tend to be at the other end of the pen of the allegations. And I wonder, it's at that point, is that if there was some data research done on, like, who are the social workers who are submitting, and the volunteers, too many volunteers. I would never have anyone volunteer in my charity around young people, never, because what is their intention?
And
Anyway,
also, they're too matey. They don't understand the boundaries. They
they
don't
don't
understand
understand,
how
and
you
they
work with
don't.
young people. They will ask leading questions. They will. We've had it all the time, haven't
Well, and there's often with the
we?
younger social workers who are newly qualified, they don't understand the boundaries between getting on down with the kids and being their
I
friend.
know it's
And
lethal.
this is where the
Mm,
allegations stem from. And I think the more mature, more
mm,
practiced, more professional social worker has a better lens on this and
mm,
it through differently. But when they're in their team, when the younger ones are making these mistakes, they will
mm.
protect them.
I know. I know.
It's
Oh well, and we've
what
got
is
somebody
so
coming on, haven't we?
Yeah, and
talk
this is
about
what's
a
so
real experience, which is
heartbreaking.
horrific. Yeah.
They will protect their own. And
Mm,
isn't that just
mm,
the issue within the very abuse in the very families and
mm,
environments that they remove the children from in the first place?
mm,
So
mm,
sometimes the mirror and the similarity
mm,
of behavior is for
mm,
me, it feels too much to bear sometimes because
mm,
I watch and I listen to a lot of the professionals
mm,
sounding and behaving very much like the abusers of the children.
mm.
And I know that you shouldn't say that, but I
Well,
can
and then,
say
also,
it's
for instance, as well, you've got to wonder why local authorities and agencies leave carers so uneducated. They rarely educate them in what underpins their roles, the national minimum standards, the statutory regulations. They rarely tell them what the code of conduct is for social workers. They rarely tell them how their role actually works, which leaves them open. And they go, oh, just parent this child
yeah,
like you did your own. They
cheap and
rarely,
disposable,
they rarely actually tell
cheap
them
and
how to do their
disposable.
role, and they leave them very vulnerable to allegations.
Well, it
And
suits them.
yeah, because it suits them. And I think that that's why I guess that's why we've built Foster Wiki, we've built
Yeah,
the National Foster Care Qualifications, Starling, you name it, and you're getting your marketing team to start directing things in the right direction. We've got a new integrated assessment process that gives people a really proper start when they foster, not just this silly skills to foster nonsense, and
yeah.
doesn't infantilize them, gives them a chance, gives them proper training in allegations from their perspective. And so we're not saying here, don't foster. We're saying, come to us, foster, know what you're getting into, because you can be kept safer from all of this if you've got the knowledge that you need.
Knowledge is power, and that's what they don't like. They
Yeah, and
don't.
I'm sorry this one's turned into a bit of a having a go at everybody one, but we wouldn't be true to ourselves if we didn't. We weren't honest about this. We aren't honest about the fabricating evidence in reports and
Seen it.
reviews.
I've seen
If
it.
we weren't honest about the protectionism that creates the conditions for people to lie. If we weren't honest about this, we might as well stop doing this podcast. And also, this honesty comes from years and years, decades, thousands of carers we've worked with in allegations. We're not just making this up based on one person's experience. Look, let's move on towards the end now, because I just wanted to introduce, we will be coming back to allegations. The next thing is we've got a really interesting guest coming on who's a top leading pediatrician. He has his story of what happened to him. And yeah, you need to get your antidepressants out with that one. But we also want to say that so many people came to us after we talked about Somerset and Nottingham, not Somerset and Nottingham themselves. They didn't seem to come back with any kind of this wasn't, if you haven't listened, this was the last episode, any kind of answer to what we were raising. But I had quite a few people contact me and said they want their local authority to be on the naughty step. So
Yeah.
we'll start the naughty step, local authority naughty step feature in our things. This week it goes to, I think this week I'm going to give it to Dorset. You know what I'm talking
I
about.
know why. Oh, I need
So
check from the top of me before that.
you couldn't make
Blimey.
it up, this one. Dorset's
No.
latest recruitment advert. They're having a meeting of people interested in fostering at the Tank Museum. So they have a picture of a tank pointing its gun at a foster care and a child
I don't know.
in Foster for
I
Dorset.
can't believe it.
And actually, I
Monkey
can't
Green as
tell you how I
well.
came by that. Actually, several Dorset carers have sent it to me, but I can tell you through my interaction with several Dorset carers as well, nothing is different in Dorset than anywhere else. People are leaving, they're joining, going to IFAs, they're just leaving. Some are planning on leaving. It is carnage in their fostering department. Yet, surprisingly enough, again, what are they with Ofsted? Outstanding.
Hmm. There's a bit of a weird disconnect there, isn't there?
Such a weird
I
disconnect.
I
Because they
can't.
don't talk to any foster carers, Ofsted.
Only the cherry
A
picked.
couple of cherry pick ones, yeah. But we're going to be changing that, aren't we?
Yeah, yeah, we
Going to
are.
be
Yes,
changing that.
I saw that advert, and what is the mood bear? Just a mood
What was
bear.
that?
What's a mood bear?
What's mood bear?
Mood
Go
bear.
go
Why are
and
they
have
pointing
go
their
and be
gun?
shot by the tank with your mood bear.
Honestly,
People are
none of that
listening to
makes
this thinking, what are they talking about? But frankly, I don't know. What are they talking about? So,
I'm talking about
Dorset,
another.
get your act together.
I
Sack
did.
your marketing department.
Come to
It
me.
was
Come to Louise
terrible. Go to
Marketing
Louise,
Agency.
market
Yeah, get your
own
marketing
company.
sorted out.
Get yourself sorted out, or you'll be on the naughty step again, and we might just raise a few more of your naughty issues. So, anybody who wants confidentially, completely confidentially, you can contact Sarah Anderson at fosterwiki.com or
Louise at louise-allen.com.
yeah, and you can tell us which local authority you'd like to be on the naughty step and why. And actually, though we jest, the first one we started, wasn't it, was with Rotherham and how they got outstanding just weeks after they'd been partly culpable for the murder of one of their foster carers.
Yeah.
So there's a serious side to it all. So we've got serious stuff saying that as well. And we'll put somebody on the naughty step next week. Now, hopefully next week we've got a bit of a guest, haven't we? We can't unveil it just yet, but we might
Yeah.
have a bit of a guest.
Yeah. A bit of a guess.
Yeah. So thank you for listening, everybody. We might have vaguely got on in time. I don't know.
And to
Then
all of
on.
you who are
What have you
worried,
got planned for this week?
well, I just got another dog, haven't I? So I'm trying to work as normal around going, oh, look. So
Hmm.
I've got three dogs.
Well, we've got our first we've got our meeting finally with Josh McAllister, the
Yeah.
children's minister, albeit with a couple of other people, but we have got a meeting with him, so I'm very delighted about that. He wants to listen to foster carers, so there we
Yeah,
are. We will be going. We're going to that.
that's a move in the right direction. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really hope that people, the great and the good, whoever you are, talk to us
Mm,
because we do know and we know how to turn this great big sinking tankard
mm,
around.
mm,
We know what to do
yeah.
because we're the foster carers and we talk to foster carers.
Mm,
And I want to say to any foster carer that has experienced or is worried about allegations, get in touch,
mm,
join the union, talk to Foster Wiki. It doesn't have to be that bad. And
mm.
knowledge is power. And
Yes.
as we say, if you feel even slightly that something is amiss, follow your gut feeling and start
Mm,
recording.
mm,
I photographed a home link book with a school because I just got a feeling that I wasn't being told the
mm.
truth. And I
Don't bury your
recorded,
head in the sand.
yeah, never do that. And I photographed every page. And I am
Mm.
eternally glad I did because it made an allegation go away.
Yeah. And I think that's the value of Foster Wiki. The value of the unions is
Yeah,
obvious because they
you're
do the
not on your
legal
own.
representation. But the value of something like Foster Wiki and the support we do and the education we can give you, which is from the foster care's perspective, can minimize the risk of allegations. And if it does happen, help you through it
Yeah, you're not on your own
yourself,
anymore.
empower you in it. So, yeah.
So
And you're
stay.
not alone. Can I say that? All of you out there, you are not alone. You are not alone. We are here for you.
And we speak for you and we speak with you. So if you want
Mm.
us to represent your views, get in touch.
Get in touch. Yes,
We're
please.
here. And just
Ah,
carry on
mm,
doing the brilliant people and the work you're doing. Carry on being amazing.
mm.
And local authorities and providers do start listening because we do
Yes,
hold,
please.
and we do have
And,
the foster carers, by the way.
and please share the podcast because it's getting some phenomenal downloads now. And the only way we can spread it is by word of mouth, because in social media, as you know, we don't have access like other support organizations do to carers' emails. They're all kept very, very tightly in the places where they own the
Vault,
reservations.
the
So,
email
on that
vault.
note, On that note, and there are hundreds of lovely social workers out there. We're not really getting at you, we're getting out of system. So and we'll end on that note, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Take care, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Bye.